Hey, it's MJ from the Coaches Panel. I hope you're well and welcome back to another player review as I look through every single player that moves AFL clubs this off-season that's just wrapped up in 2023. Whether it be via trade or the free agency mechanism, we unpack what it means for the club they've left, the club they've landed at, and for us that play AFL Fantasy, SuperCoach and Dream Team, put it all together and give you my thoughts on what it means for us heading into the fantasy season of 2024 and beyond. Talking about the new Western Bulldog, Nick or Nicholas, depending on if he's in trouble, Nick Coffield. Let's talk about what it means for his former team, the St Kilda Saints. Sadly, they haven't seen much footy from him. He hasn't played at the elite level of AFL back since 2021. Numerous injuries, some form concerns, but certainly an ACL. The most recent big reason for why he's missed a chunk of footy. He was a high draft pick more than a handful of years ago and looked like there were moments at times in his career where he was really going to pop a little bit, but unfortunately his body's just let him down, and a little bit of form, to be fair, early days as well, has probably prevented him from really establishing himself at that football club. Nick, at his very, very best, is a really nice mover of the ball, good runner, nice user of the football, and has some intercepting skills about him as well. So I don't mind him as a footballer in general. I think he's a really nice player, but St Kilda have had to do the past two AFL seasons without him. And so the departure of him probably doesn't feel like it's going to do a significant amount to them right now because, politely, they've gone 24 months of football without being able to access Nick. So I think, yeah, it probably hurts their squad depth just that little bit, but they've done some work over the past couple of years to help build that up. The recruitment of a Nazai Wanganeen-Miller, for example, who's jet-setted himself and certainly leapfrogged past, has done a really nice role in that spot. They've got a lot of these guys that can hold down that distribution, intercept, float between the two, which is really what Nick is as a footballer. They've got guys like a Jimmy Webster, who again has got as much injury history concerns as Nick has, if not, maybe not as bad. But Webster's able to slide into that back line as well. So from a St Kilda perspective, I don't think it's going to be too disastrous for us. From a Western Bulldogs point of view, this one really interests me because when I think about the rebounders that the Bulldogs have, they've got a couple of really great run and carry options in Jason Johannesson and then Bailey Dale. They've also got a guy who historically has spent a lot of time in that halfback line, but then was experimented more through the wings, centre bounce, and even high half forward this year in Caleb Daniel, who his ability to hit a target on the angles on the 35 and 45 metre passes, really not many players in the AFL system can do it. So I don't see Nicholas coming to take over any of those spots. Maybe there's the hope that he kind of floats into that more intercepting role, but I'm not too sure that Nicholas is going to be able to have that as his primary one would. Where he's at his best is his adaptability to move from intercept to playmaker. And if he's at the Western Bulldogs as an interceptor alone, while that might be fine from him having AFL job security, for us in the fantasy community, which is ultimately what we're looking at through this series, that might just cap his ceiling just that little bit. We'll unpack it more in a second. I'm not sold that he's best 22 in this Western Bulldogs outfit. One thing we know about the Western Bulldogs is change is so regular for this side. While they've probably got on paper the most talented AFL list available to any of the 18 clubs, the reality is they just haven't been able to extract the maximum out of the potential of this list. So I think he's probably coming at first as a depth option, but if he can get a full preseason under his belt, really push hard, it wouldn't shock me to see the Bulldogs again change and adapt and move some things around him. We know that defensive line is probably one of the biggest question marks they've got. That midfield is awesome on paper. That forward line has, on name value, one of the most potent forward lines you could possibly have. The question mark is the defensive line. And we'll get to see through early preseason whether or not he's going to be able to retain that as we head into 2024. So what does it mean for us in the fantasy footy community? A couple of things. Number one, he hasn't played since 2021. So there's 2 seasons of not playing. So he should be priced at a basement price in SuperCoach and Dream Team. AFL Fantasy, what they often do is they apply the discount to a player to the highest of the seasonal averages of the past 2 years. Because he hasn't played for 2 years, they might bend the rule and make it 3, which in the case, I think it was early 60s, he averaged in 2021. So that might happen, but if he is basement price across the formats, which he honestly should be given he hasn't played so much football, then anyone that's got a history of mid to high 60s averages in AFL Fantasy and Dream Team and can do a 70 in SuperCoach must be seriously considered, because he's a proven performer, whereas most players at that basement price are unproven. Maybe more talented, maybe more tricks, maybe whatever. But the reality is they haven't shown they can deliver at the AFL level when Nick has. You go back through that 2021 season, you see multiple tons, multiple 90s and 80s. Yep, there's some 40s and 50s in there as well. Absolutely, you've got to take that into consideration. But at the price point we're looking for in Classic, all we're really looking for is a 6 to 8 week stretch, make 150k out of him, run away with an average of 60 if we can, and all of a sudden he's become one of the most valuable defensive cows we could get. So there's a huge upside potential here for Nick Coffield. I think he's a basement price cow. I believe he'll have defensive status, and he's shown that he can go 60s and maybe early 70s is his absolute ceiling. The challenge he's got is cracking into this Western Bulldogs side. Where does it and how does it come? Does he require some injuries? Does it require some serious structural changes to a few players around there? Regardless of a guy that's got the scoring power, and maybe it's a little bit overloaded, that statement. The scoring ability to deliver 60s and 70s at the AFL level at what should be a basement price across the formats means for us in Classic, he's got to be seriously high in our watch lists. For me, I'd be encouraging you that let's wait and see what positions and prices land, which is in early to mid-December. But he's likely going to be someone I'm just placing at D7, D8 throughout the preseason. That basement cow that I think can do enough to debut early for his club. I think he's got a few things to overcome, but definitely for Nick Coffield, there's a world where he gets plenty of football next year. There's also a world where he just can't crack in and he stays as a depth option for this team. But what do you think about my take on Nick Coffield? Do you agree or disagree? You can have your say in the comments section below. Right throughout this off-season, we've been covering every single player that's moved clubs. So if you're just catching onto the channel, or if you're just catching into your pre-season for 2024, you can go back and check out all of those player movement reviews. If you're enjoying this channel and all the content we're delivering in the off-season, make sure you subscribe, turn the notifications on, so that as soon as a video gets dropped throughout the off-season and into the preseason, you'll be notified straight away. And our Patreons, you get extra bonus content, and for as little as $2 a month, they get access to a whole realm of hidden groups, additional podcasts, additional rewards just for becoming a loyal supporter. If you want to do that, all the details for that and to follow us on social media, all in the description of this video. Thanks for watching, and I can't wait to be back chatting with you soon about another player that's moved clubs this off season.